So Skratch got the chance to get an exclusive interview with Simon, and there was a lot of info shared in there that some of you might have missed. So I'm going to go break down all the juicy stuff for you today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hello everyone, Ragewood here, back with another Godforge video, and as mentioned in the intro, Simon and Skratch sat down together to put out a video and talk about all things Godforge. Now, I will put a link to Skratch's channel in the description down below, so you can go check him out and support him. Not that he needs it from someone like me, but there was lots of really interesting stuff shared in that little video that some of you might have missed, so we're going to call it all out here. So the first part here, I'm actually going to talk about Gilgamesh. Now, we saw a little bit of Gilgamesh's kit shown to us, and I've actually already started to form a build in my head from things that Simon showed us. And I don't know if this was intentionally shown to us to sort of nudge us in the direction, but I certainly found it very interesting. So we're going to just jump through those little bits now. So obviously we do have Gilgamesh here, and we do get a chance to see his basic skill. Now, we've seen a lot of the animations, they look very cool, but so far I've not seen any sort of debuffs or anything like that, but this I thought was particularly interesting. So we know he's a brawler, so his attack is going to scale on HP as well as attack, as we can see here. There's an additional 20% chance to land a strong hit. Now, we still don't know exactly what strong hits are or how they occur, but it's very clear that his kit is going to be sort of centered around it in some way. So with that in mind, we actually have a weapon and an imprint that is in theory good to go and perfect for him. One thing I did want to quickly show you is we do see a couple of strong hits occur in the fight. So we can see Ramses here using his ultimate, and then we have a couple of crits and then a strong hit that was on the mummy there. So I don't know if it's anything linked to crits or things like that, but it was interesting to see it shown there. There is also another one which pops up further in the fight. Yeah, so it's actually just coming up with Ramses here in a second as well. So Dagonet takes a swing at this guy. Then Ramses comes along, hits Brunhild, and lands another strong hit. Now, we know in his kit that he has built-in increased chance to strong hit. I think all of the starters do, truth be told. But yeah, still trying to get my head around it. And as soon as I do, I will, of course, let you know. But yeah, cool to see. Anyway, back to the Gilgamesh theory graft. So it actually starts right here. So we can see the Minotaur's passive here, which increases the chance of strong hit by 10% while at full divinity. So this means whilst your ultimate is charged. Now, we know Gilgamesh has that sort of strong hit chance built into his basic, so this might be a good one to put on him, increasing that chance from, I think it was 20% to potentially 30% whilst at full divinity. Now, whether you want to not cast your ultimate remains to be seen, but if you build around it, maybe in a follow-up attack or a counter-attack sort of build mindset where you're doing it a lot, then this potentially might be good. And then we also get a look at a weapon. So what we see here is a battle axe. Now, it is an early weapon, but we can see that strong hits inflict 10% more damage. So this whole strong hit thing isn't just a gimmick. It is going to be, by looks at it, a core mechanic to some people in Godforge. So it's definitely something to consider. And this is potentially a way we can build Gilgamesh, at least early on. We can put the battle axe on, we can put the Minotaur's passive on him, and then just really pump out the basic. Now, he does have something else on him here, so this might also do something to do with strong hits. It could be something completely different that, I'm missing because I don't know his whole kit yet, but it was certainly something fun to look at. Simon then goes on to show us Aphrodite with some gear on her. We can see that she's got Falcon set on her, so that is the speed set in the game, We don't know what the 4-piece bonus is yet, but we know that 2-piece is 15. We also see this weapon on her, Shang, not entirely sure how to pronounce it, but increases damage inflicted when counter-attacking by 10%. So she has Retaliate on her, she's going to do increased damage. And Aphrodite's kit has actually changed, we'll come onto it later. In fact, I'm recording this after I've done my CC leaks, and I had to go back and completely change the CC leaks that I did in my theory craft for this week, so do go check that out, and apologies for the jumping, but it's a bit of a giggle, you'll see when it comes out. But yes, we do know that her basic attack pushes turn meter, so having a counter attack on her, a retaliate, is great for Aphrodite because it will continue to push that turn meter push. I used push a lot there, but you get what I mean. But it was very cool to see the build that we've got on here. We also did get a chance to see some other gear, Helmet of the Claw increasing crit rate by 10%. There's a few now that have been revealed. I think actually all 23 basics might have been revealed. I haven't put them on the website yet because I'm waiting till we can see all of them. But yeah, it was fun to see. Another thing they briefly talk about is some of the quality of life stuff that you've got here. So it does have multi-platform functionality. So, if you're... Doesn't matter if you're playing on Android and then hop to PC, like literally a second later, you will continue your progress. It doesn't actually change, which was fantastic. The other thing that they mentioned is that they do have the facility to switch accounts. So now this does not apply to Alpha, I'll come on to that in a second, but during full launch, if you've got a free-to-play account and a spender account, you can flick between the two without needing to log out, which I think is fantastic. Now, when it comes to the alpha, we only have one account, which also means that you cannot re-roll. So for those of you out there that like that sort of thing, do make your decisions carefully, especially in that 10-day period, because as I say, it's linked to that one email address that you've provided them, and there is no re-rolling. That's it. So just bear that in mind. But very cool to see that these kind of systems are already in the game. So as they're talking throughout, Simon mentions about the trip to Vegas for the top 5 players, the diorama, and that there'll be some cosmetic rewards for everyone that takes part just in general, which is very nice. I have actually taken part in a tournament in Ethereum Restart recently, and we're getting cool borders and such from that, which is really cool. I really like that kind of stuff. Simon then goes to talk about some of the drops in the cavern. So he goes on to say that, for example, any floor that is an integer of 8, or like 8, 18, 28, that kind of thing, will be where we go to farm the weapons. The 9s will be where this material drops, which is what you use to improve your weapon. So each floor is going to have sort of like a dedicated thing that you're going to go there for. And then as you go down, sort of the better that it gets. So on floor 29, you might get 45 of these materials here. Floor 28, you might stop getting uncommon weapons, you might get rare weapons, that kind of thing. So as soon as we get all that info, I will of course let you know via here, but also I do work for Hell Hades, so we will put all of the information on the site, I am sure, and if not, I will make an article about it somehow. But yeah, I will do what I am able to help everyone achieve the best score that they can in this cavern. Now, talking of achieving big scores in the cavern, there is going to be star ratings for each floor. Now, as you can see from the example here, you get the 1 star just for completing the floor, which is very, very nice. So yeah, just beat the stage, job done. Then each floor is going to have an additional challenge to get 2 stars. So in this particular one, it's use a Slayer and an Invoker. And that 2-star completion will come with another reward, which is just hidden behind Simon's head here. the important part of this, right, is your score against the final Fafnir boss will have a multiplication linked to the number of stars that you have completed in the cavern. So you do want to, or at least you're incentivized to get as many 2 stars as you can, hopefully on all of them, to increase your multiplier against the final Fafnir boss. Just something to bear in mind. Now, my particular strategy is to try and complete as many 2 stars as possible the first time that I get to it, to save me having to go backwards. And they do mention in the chat that a lot of these actually you'll find you're going to have to come back to at some point anyway, just because you might not have the squad built out or anything like that. But yeah, try and complete as many as you can as you are going down, so then you don't have to come back to them. I imagine they're going to get a lot harder the further down we go, so you don't want to waste your precious time going back and redoing floor 4, for example. Also, certain gear sets will drop from certain floors. Now, again, I don't know if that information will be given to us readily, or whether it's a case of just, fuck around and find out, so to speak. Again, I will make a note of everything for you to, give you everything you need to make your life easier. Some of the hero sort of leader bonuses have changed for the Alpha Cavern just to get them to work, Simon did say, so he didn't specify who, but some of these will differ come full launch, just as an FYI. We then come to some in-game footage of the fights. Now, as I mentioned, Aphrodite's kit has changed somewhat. So as you can see, her core is still the same. She's placed speed and initiative up to on Ramses, and she grants an extra turn to herself. And then she basic attacks. Now, previously it said when it basic attacks, it boosts the turn meter of anyone under speed up and initiative up to. Now, that might still be the case, but we also now have a follow-up attack built into her kit. Now, that is not written down on the site. I'm going to wait until it's actually shown to us physically before I change that information just to confirm, but definitely interesting to see. We then get to see Ramses take a turn now. We see his core ability, which attacks all enemies and has additional chance to place a strong hit. So again, that battle axe weapon we looked at earlier might be very good here as well. And he has a chance to place an acid for 2 turns. Now, something I wanted to see is whether we could stack acid like you can in Raid, or whether it is treated like HP burn where you can only have 1 of. So he does use the ability here, and it's important to note that Green Knight has, looks like 1 stack for 2 turns on him already. Then when Ramses goes, we can see that it looks like it's been placed, but nothing's changed. It still says 2 here. And these guys who didn't have acid gained a stack. So I'm starting to think maybe we could only have 1 stack of acid on any one time, which is certainly interesting. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but that's what it looked like to me. Obviously, let me know your thoughts down below. And then they all just fell on the floor from the acid tick when they went to take their turn, which I thought was very funny. Let me see what Dagonet's ultimate does now. We saw the core a second ago where he places defense down on the enemies and vanish on himself. And now his ultimate, when he attacks 1 enemy and then he attacks again on someone under defense down. So sort of like attacking 2 random targets, and each hit has a chance to 50% remove a buff, which is great. And he gains divinity whenever making a joint attack. Now, we can sort of see why he's paired with Aphrodite here, because Aphrodite appears to have joint attack on her skill set now, so you might want to consider placing her core on him instead. Just mute this whilst we play it along. We then see the changed Aphrodite ultimate, the Dance of Chiron. So now this used to say, place Confuse if the resistance is higher than the accuracy. If her accuracy was higher than the opponent's resistance, she would place a stun that was unresistible. So it was very much around that kind of theme. You're sort of infatuated, you can't think. Instead, it leans more into what her core does. And this is absolutely bonkers, and you'll see me talk about it in the CC leaks later on this week. She attacks all enemies and then extends the duration of anyone with speed up and initiative up on all allies. Now, she only places it on a single person, but if you have someone that does it with an AoE, this is absolutely bonkers. She then increases the turn meter and divinity by 20%, and this is doubled under allies who are under those two specific buffs. So this is an absolute powerhouse move, and that's why it's 2000 divinity. This is the first person I've seen with an ultimate cost more than 1,000, and I completely understand why. Whether it's too high remains to be seen, but if you can get speed up and initiative up to on herself, then maybe she boosts herself by 40%, so straight away you're getting that 800 back, which seems really good if you can do that. She also gains divinity when placing buffs on allies, so yeah, she'll gain 140 from her core. But yeah, that was absolutely incredible to see that ultimate has changed. Leans more into what the rest of her kit does and seems very, very strong. They then mentioned there's going to be 2 bosses in the caverns. You're going to have Fafnir and the Golden Guardian, and that they're going to be phased fights, somewhat like World of Warcraft. So I imagine they're going to have like 2 health bars. You take down one, and then the skill set or something might change, or the environment might change, something like that. So that was pretty cool to hear. He also mentions that these bosses will be on the sort of intervals of 30. So 30, 60, 90, 120, and then 150. The other 10, so 10, 20, 40, 50, will be like mini boss fights, but they're just going to be sort of souped up versions of heroes currently in the game. We then get some massive energy information to do with the cavern. So we've seen a few times now that Simon's had a pool of like 200 odd. There you go. Let's just press play so we can see it like up here. Okay, so this is your stamina, your energy in the cavern. I can't remember what it's called. Now, anytime you clear a floor that you have not cleared before, you do not use any stamina. So all the time that you're progressing, you're not using anything in this pool here. Anytime that you fail a floor that you have not cleared before, you do not use any energy. That's the important thing here. All the time that you are progressing or you're clearing something you've not cleared before, you're not losing any stamina. The only time you will use your stamina is when you start going back to farm things, whether that's weapons, characters, heroes, they're the same thing, experience materials, any of that kind of stuff. That is the time that you will start using this energy pool. Because they want to encourage you to progress, and they don't want to punish you for trying to progress, which I really like. I think that's very clever. They do mention that also this regenerate might be a bit faster than full launch because of the limited time frame that we've got. But I love to see that, say, all the time that you're moving down the tower successfully, you're going to keep this, which is, chef's kiss. We then get a chance to see a couple of new imprints, and by this, these are hero passives slightly weakened. So we can see Soul Days passive is whenever an allied defender is attacked, it heals all allies by 1% of this hero's max HP. Now this seems pretty strong, especially if you can put it on someone with like a taunt or like a provoke, or even a team full of defenders and all have this on them, where you're just never dying, kind of in like a stall comp. I thought that was pretty cool. And then we also see Aphrodite's changed passive as well. So her passive used to say people underneath speed up to, initiative up to, have 20% increased healing, 20% increased turn meter, and deal 20% increased damage, which was very, very strong. This now says allies gain X% turn meter when inflicting damage to an enemy. This effect is doubled to those under those 2 buffs. And this is obviously a weakened version, so I imagine that her version is 2%, and then it is doubled. So very strong, especially on someone like Dracula, who has a 4-hit AoE ultimate, I imagine that would be sort of 2%. You're hitting all 4 allies, potentially 5. So that's 10% times 4, potentially, because he hits 4 times, which would be a 40% turn meter increase to come back around to his turn again, which seems incredibly strong, if you ask me. I don't know which one I prefer, but yeah, if you put these 2 buffs on track and then he ults with this as an imprint, that seems, yeah, very, very good, if you ask me. And then the rest of the video is essentially just some fight scenes going on. It was really cool to see some kits. So Isolde is placing defense up on people, which is really cool. We see Skadi here using her ability and putting freeze, which makes sense. She's an Asgard Jotun. But yeah, it was pretty cool to see some of these abilities. Hippolyta placing speed up on herself. So we're starting to see some of the kits come through, which was, again, just really fun to see. I think that's where this ends, so I don't think there was anything else too interesting. Just give me 2 secs just to double check that. Yeah, so the rest of it was mainly just some fighting and looking at some of the different sort of mini bosses. This particular one actually shows us Leonidas in a second just here. So as you can see, he is much taller than the other units to signify that he is a boss. And yeah, looking pretty cool, nice animations, and yeah, things are starting to shape up very nicely, which was very cool. Yes, that is everything from this one, so thank you very much for watching, guys. As I say, I'll put a link down below to Skratch's channel and this original sort of interview if you want to watch it in full without my commentary on it. And yeah, take care, look after yourselves, work hard, but as always, play harder, and I will see you in another one soon. Cheers.